Factory girls. It takes 200 pairs of hands to make a running shoe. Everything begins with a person called a cutter, who stamps a sheet of mesh fabric into curvy, irregular pieces, like a child's picture puzzle. Stitchers are next. They sew the pieces together into the shoe upper, attaching other things, a plastic logo, shoelace eyelets, as they go. After that, sole workers use infrared ovens to heat pieces of the sole and glue them together. Assemblers, typically men, as the work requires greater strength, stretch the upper over a plastic mold, or last, shaped like a human foot. They lace the upper tightly, brush glue on the sole, and press the upper and the sole together. A machine applies 90 pounds of pressure to each shoe. Finishers remove the lasts, check each shoe for flaws, and place matched pairs in cardboard boxes. The boxes are put in crates, 10 boxes to a crate, and shipped to the world within 3 days. Every shoe has a label on its tongue, made in China. If you wear athletic shoes, chances are you have worn a pair. Chapter 6. The Stele with No Name. Chapter 5. Factory girls. It takes 200 pairs of hands to make a running shoe. Everything begins with a person called a cutter, who stamps a sheet of mesh fabric into curvy, irregular pieces, like a child's picture puzzle. Stitchers are next. They sew the pieces together into the shoe upper, attaching other things, a plastic logo, shoelace eyelets, as they go. After that, sole workers use infrared ovens to heat pieces of the sole and glue them together. Assemblers, typically men, as the work requires greater strength, stretch the upper over a plastic mold, or last, shaped like a human foot. They lace the upper tightly, brush glue on the sole, and press the upper and the sole together. A machine applies 90 pounds of pressure to each shoe. Finishers remove the lasts, check each shoe for flaws, and place matched pairs in cardboard boxes. The boxes are put in crates, 10 boxes to a crate, and shipped to the world within 3 days. Every shoe has a label on its tongue, made in China. If you wear athletic shoes, chances are you have worn a pair that was made at the Yue Yuan factory in Dongguan. The Taiwanese-owned factory is the biggest manufacturer for Nike, Adidas, and Reebok, along with smaller brands like Puma and Asics, all of whom stopped making shoes years ago and farmed out production to factories that could do it more cheaply. Yue Yuan's secret is vertical integration. It controls every step of the manufacturing process, from initial design to making glues, soles, molds, and lasts, to cutting, stitching, and assembling the finished products. 1/3 of the world's shoes are made in Guangdong province, and the Yue Yuan plant is the biggest of them all. 70,000 people work at its Dongguan factory. Imagine the entire population of Santa Fe, New Mexico, under the age of 30, and engaged in making athletic shoes. Inside the compound's brick walls, workers sleep in factory dorms and eat in factory cafeterias and shop at factory commissaries. Yue Yuan runs a kindergarten for employees' children and a hospital with 150-member staff. It has a movie theater and a performance troupe, volunteer activities, and English classes. It operates its own power plant and fire department, and sometimes the city of Dongguan borrows Yue Yuan's fire truck ladder, the tallest one around, to put out fires. Yue Yuan bottles its own water. Locals will tell you that it grows its own food, which is not true, although the company at one point contracted with farmers in the area to guarantee its food sources. Nothing short of apocalypse would cut off the world's supply of what the industry calls branded athletic footwear. For young migrants, Yue Yuan offers stability. An assembly line job brings only an average salary, about $72 a month in take-home pay, in line with the city's minimum wage. But it is paid every month on time. Work is capped at 11 hours a day and 60 hours a week, with Sundays off. Rare for an industry in which laboring through the night is not unheard of. Yue Yuan workers sleep 10 to a room in metal bunks, and this too is better than average. Young women typically pay middlemen 100 yuan to procure a job here. Men pay several times that. 80% of the workers at Yue Yuan are women, most between the ages of 18 and 25. A migrant who lands a job at Yue Yuan may never work anywhere else. Over the years, she may quit and go home to see a sick relative or settle a marriage engagement, to have a rest or a child, and then return to Yue Yuan. A worker may introduce a sibling or a cousin or a fellow villager into the factory, and the company encourages this. In one instance, 10 members of an extended family all worked inside the factory. Employee turnover is high, 5% a month, meaning that more than half the workforce changes in a year, but that does not take into account the many workers who quit only to return again. Zhou Yinfang joined Yue Yuan in 1991 when she was 17. She met her husband in the factory, took time off to have 2 children, talked her way into a promotion, and now manages 1,500 workers as a factory chief. "I would like to work here until I retire," she told me. She was 30 years old, but her voice was already the harsh whisper of an old woman. All of the Yue Yuan bosses, the workers say, have raspy voices from years of shouting orders over the din of the machines. Upward mobility is possible. The demands of production are so intense that Yue Yuan must promote from within. Almost all of the company's managers, from supervisors of single lines to the heads of whole factories, are rural migrants who started out on the assembly line. An intricate hierarchy orders this world. Managers are divided into 13 grades, from trainee to managing director. They typically address each other by title and not by name. One cafeteria is reserved exclusively for production line leaders, while another caters to supervisors, the next step up from them. A child is a status symbol. Only line leaders and above are allowed to live inside the factory as a married couple with a child. Ordinary workers usually leave their children at home in the village to be minded by grandparents. Factory society divides along provincial lines. Workers from the same province stick together, speaking dialects that outsiders cannot understand. Those from provinces with large migrant populations further segregate based on which county they come from. Natives of the adjoining provinces of Anhui, Henan, Shaanxi, and Shandong can speak to one another in their own dialects. They call one another half-fellow provincials, which brings a sense of closeness. The company doesn't fight these regional prejudices. Its cafeterias offer workers a choice of Hunan, Sichuan, or Cantonese dishes. Provincial stereotypes color hiring, and a boss can ban an entire province if he believes that 100 million people from one place can share a personality trait. Henan people get into fights. People from Anhui are hard-working but untrustworthy. Workers can spend their days without venturing beyond Yue Yuan's guarded gates, and many of them do, saying the world outside is Luan, chaotic, dangerous. Yet life inside Yue Yuan's walls can be turbulent too. Petty theft is rampant. Workers are banned from dorms during work hours in an effort to reduce such crimes. Factory floor quarrels carry over into the dorms, where workers on the same production line are required to room together for the sake of efficiency. Gangs thrive inside Yue Yuan. Some rob workers of their wages on payday. Others focus on stealing shoe parts. The gangs practice a vertical integration of their own. One group may spirit shoelaces out of the factory, while another smuggles out soles. The parts are assembled into shoes and distributed in other parts of the city. In the universe of Chinese counterfeiting, theirs is a distinctive subspecialty, the illicit assembly of authentic parts. The gangs are organized along provincial lines, and the ones from Hunan are most feared. Love triangles and extramarital affairs are common, as are out-of-wedlock pregnancies and abortions. A few years ago, a young woman committed suicide over a failed love affair. Another gave birth in her dorm bathroom and threw the baby into the toilet. The baby died, and the young woman was sent home. "We have 70,000 people. It is a city," says Luke Li, a Yue Yuan executive who oversees worker health and safety. "Whatever problems a city has, we have in the factory." On weekends, when the production lines shut down, the mood inside the Yue Yuan compound changes. Girls who walked with purpose and poker faces during the week turn slow and languorous. They stroll hand in hand with girlfriends, their factory IDs on straps around their necks or on chains linked to their belts, like American school janitors. They talk loudly in their native dialects. They show skin. They wear tank tops and jeans or black party dresses with high heels. Sometimes several friends step out in identical outfits, announcing their shared loyalties to the world. They eat ice cream cones and sit barefoot on patches of grass in twos and threes, reading magazines or sharing confidences. Sometimes one girl sits alone, staring dreamily at nothing. The dorms offer no privacy. Girls stand in doorways combing their shampooed hair and hand mirrors. Girls in shorts and flip-flops lug buckets of water to mop the dormitory floors. Residents of the upper floors lean on bare arms over balcony railings, checking out the goings-on at ground level and calling out to friends many stories below. A pop ballad blasts from a tape deck into the muggy morning. "I love you, loving you as a mouse loves rice." The air smells of laundry hanging out to dry. Bleach, detergent, and damp are the perpetual scents of the Yue Yuan factory. On a Sunday morning in June 2004, several young women lay chatting in their bunks in Building J, room 805. The room had the disheveled feel of the last stage of a slumber party, and the girls lounged in their pajamas, although it was already 11 o'clock. "When you meet a man outside the village," one girl said, "you don't know his real character, and you don't know about his family. If you get a boyfriend while you are outside, your parents will have no face at home. You may make friends with someone, then you go home and lose touch. When you go home, you find out people know all sorts of things about you." 10 girls lived together in J805, an 8th-floor room measuring 200 square feet with 2 rows of metal bunk beds. The room smelled, like everywhere else at Yue Yuan, of wet laundry. Each girl was assigned a wall cabinet that held clothes, snacks, makeup, and jewelry. They decorated the insides with magazine pictures of movie stars, like the lockers of American high school girls. The spaces under the bunks were a graveyard for shoes, high heels, sneakers, Hello Kitty flip-flops.